الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Today, inshallah, bi'iznillahi ta'ala, we will have an amazing discussion regarding India. As many of you know, brothers and sisters, India claims to be the largest democracy in the world. It actually takes pride in having one of the largest populations in the world, but also the so-called largest democracy. At the same time, being a Muslim and being what's called minority within the democratic, structures that we see today in where minorities are treated the way they are treated in India, and this is why we called today's discussion on the topic of democracy with a Z, because I really think it is crazy. But so inshallah, we have amazing da'is, activists, professionals, inshallah, who know the region very well, who are from India, who are in and out of India, who have families living in India, who are also many times active within the Indian da'wah framework as Muslims. So inshallah, we will introduce brother Abdul Muqeet, who's also a professional and engineer here in Illinois, also works with Northern Illinois University, a graduate from their master's in technologies, in business technologies. And also we have brother Abu Ata, who also is active both here, India, on online, social media, constantly bringing events and sharing the events of what's happening in the Muslim world and India, who also has family there, who's also from there. So inshallah, the whole today's discussion will be inshallah a lively discussion regarding the politics, regarding the idea of what is actually democracy or democracy, and let's bring your questions. Let's make it as lively as possible, and let's try to learn as much as we can from our guests, bi'iznillahi ta'ala. So, brother Abu Ata and Abdul Muqeet, welcome. Ahlan wa sahlan to Islamic Oasis Live.
Jazakumullah khair for having us.
So, let's begin because of the time here. So, what is, I heard, maybe you did also, I heard yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a rape with a Muslim sister who was a police officer, and I know the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of the politicians in India and Islamic movements who talk about democracy in India, who talk about playing let's say a role in the Indian politics, many times even pushing people and the Muslims to become part of the Indian politics, the Indian political scene. And now you have a woman who is a police officer and then is raped, and then no one talks about it, to the point everything is pushed under the table. So let's begin here. What does it mean? I mean, it's also known, India is also known to be the so-called the capital of rape in the world. So let's begin here. What is democracy, and what is the reality of rights to the minorities in India, or so-called minorities? Anyone can take it. At this point, if Brother Abu Ata wants to take it, or Abdul Muqeet, whoever.
Yes, inshallah, I can take this question. This is very important because a lot of times what people tend to think about democracy is something that humans have evolved into a critical thinking, and they have reached to a conclusion that man can make the best law and they can govern the society based on their own intellect without need of any guidance. And post kingship era in the Western states, they came up with the idea that was from Greek philosophy, demos and kratos, which they reintroduced into a new era, and changing the thoughts of the people, that people are the one that's actually our leader now, not the elite class that were ruling the people in the past. So this is the phenomenon that has been fed into the minds of millions, right? And at the same time, they boast about the largest democracy on the face of the earth, which is India. Recently, I was talking to someone, and they said shockingly that India is undemocratic or not democratic. But if you go to the Constitution of India and the laws that is embodied in this country, it's all democratic. Even the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, he when he rises up and he speaks, he would say the democracy is actually born in India, because India has a panchayat system. Panchayat system back in the days used to be that some old folks in the villages or the town will gather together to resolve their issue. So they take this as a pride of being as Indian thing, like not a foreign thing. But at the same time, they have contradiction, because BJP truly doesn't believe in democracy. They basically
so BJP being the political party in power at this point.
Yes, BJP is the current, and Prime Minister Modi comes from this party, and BJP has, basically taken over India, and this is again a thing that it's known as one of the, it supports vigilante groups, those who kills people and torture people on the street in daylight, right? And these people are protected by this right-wing group. But when people look at the system, they think that it is the BJP that came into power and corrupted things. But no, democracy is a system in which people can exploit. This is a very fragile system which can be easily exploited by any party, just like the party of in Germany, it was exploited by
the Nazis. Is that
by the Nazis? Yeah, it was basically a democratic system, and they turn into dictatorship, and that's how it becomes. This system is so fragile that it cannot put checks and balances to keep these vigilantes out. It brings them to the most powerful seats, and you'll find this funny because they contradict on it, because they don't believe in it. And this is well known in the politician, that democracy is a failed system, and that's why they get onto the top so easily, by the help of the rich people.
So what is Brother Muqeet, you've been around in that area also. You're in and out just like Brother Abu Atta is. So what is the role of money in politics?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Indian system, right, it is India comes out of the British colonial system, and even if you look at its constitution itself, it was written by underneath the British colonialist, if you want to. I mean, they did get the independence, so-called independence, 1947, and they had the constitution written, but it was overseen by the British, and it carried a lot of the policy, laws and regulations that were from the British era. That's why you see the similarity between the constitution of India, Pakistan, almost line to line in some cases. And the issue of corruption is, like Brother Atta was pointing out, is inherent within the system itself. And what happened is, after independence, is that you no longer had a British foreigner ruling over you, but a native who was ruling you by the same system, and the same corruption just continued. So in general, the system is corrupt. So there is no, there are so many cases that are pending in the courts, which run into hundreds, even over 100 years. The cases are still pending in the court. And that kind of, the police and other, law enforcement agencies are also suffering from corruption. As they say, the corruption starts at the top. So it just permeates through all levels of society. And now on top of that, you add a layer of discrimination that Muslims face, which is almost across the board. Like a lot of these cases that we hear about where, Muslims are the victim of crimes. A lot of times, even the cases are not registered by police officers, just simply because it's by a Muslim. And
what role does democracy play in this? I mean, obviously this is the reason why we called it democracy. But what kind of justice can this actually provide to the people? I mean, if you don't have money, let's say you don't have a name, you don't have fame, you don't belong to a certain, let's say, a political party, you don't belong to a certain family. So how does one get justice in this system in India, let's say specifically?
There is no justice if you don't have any of those things. Because that's the way you are able to anytime you have to do anything, you have to either bribe someone or you need to know someone in order to get things done. And pretty much if there is someone who knows someone more powerful than you, then obviously you are not going to go anywhere. That's the way the system is. And I mean, this is for all what they say about democracy. I mean, it's the same system that's implemented in the West as well. You see, I mean, the same kind of corruption exists in the West, except that they have institutionalized it in a certain way that it's still it's still functioning in the West.
So let me ask you, Brother Abu Atta, on the same line. I mean, let's say as far as Muslims playing a role in politics. I mean, you have some major guys who are there. I guess Jamaat Islami is there. There is, and as far as the Muslim vote is concerned, and all of this. So do they not know this? And who are the major ones? Like in Hyderabad, I know in these areas, and I know. So is it hypocritical to say to the Muslims that, look, if you are part of the system or you play some type of a role in the system, you'll be able to get your rights or play some type of a role in society, in the country, in the politics of the country?
Yeah, so this is again a trap set by the colonialists to bring people into the system to make them feel like they have a part to play in it. So they have designed this system where, and actually that well plays in the hands of the right wing, because what happens is you have people like Owaisi, right, running AMIMM, so which is one of the largest party in India, and Jamaatul Ulama and other. That basically what happens is, so the Hindus, they cash onto it. They see this party and they put them as, these are Muslim against us. So they present this as Muslims are going to take over. This is as if actually false allegation, because Muslims are just trying to survive and basically get some rights into it, which already, the democracy, they say that you have human rights, minorities are protected. But when you peel off it, the fruit of democracy, then you see it's nothing but deception. They bring you in because they can show their own majority that, look, these people are standing against you and they want to take over the country. That's basically what it is.
So so integration, let's say.
Yes.
I mean, is integration even what is a theory? Is a false theory? It's just something it's played on, because even if, let's say, the Muslims in India try to integrate, does that mean that would be looked upon as a threat to Indian society, or is it okay? Well, integrate means what? Become Hindu, or no? You can integrate and play a critical role in society.
Actually,
because the way you were saying, you said even if they do join, then they play in the hands, which is. They become a threat. Okay, look, in Muslims will take over. So if they don't join the government, then the call for integration, or then they can't integrate the Muslims. So what happens to Muslims?
Basically, they are they are a sheep that is ready to be slaughtered. That's what it is. On the ground, the reality is that Muslims are so powerless, right? So what happens is when something like this happens. And then the Muslims think, oh, they're not politically active. They're not politically active. This is the reason why they are being attacked, right? So they're forced to join the political corruption, which they already know. Muslims of India, they already know that this system is corrupt, because Muslim at one point in time took care of India. They ruled India with justice, with fairness. It was one of the best governance. That's why British was looking over India to take it over, because Muslims were ruling with just rule. But after the post-colonial era, the British era, they were looked at as a minority, as foreigner, as someone that converted from Hinduism to Islam. So they bring them back, and these type of environment was set, basically utilizing this democratic system, because the democratic system is best ingredient for this type of politics. You can play just like in America. So if you look at it from that perspective, they're forced to join the political arena, political process of India. Once they join this process, then they look at the Muslims, what they're saying about you, and you lose even the ground that you can speak something, because at this point now you're defending this same constitution that rips your back, the same constitution that they utilize. Actually, 10 of the state in India that gives protection to lynching, under the law. So these type of things, makes.
So let's say on this, Brother Abdul Muqeet, like just say, to continue. As far as lynching is concerned, the idea of freedom of speech is concerned. The arrest of Brother Sharjil, Imam Sharjil, who's still in jail. The FIRs being set up on some of the ulama that have said something about the defeat of the United States in Afghanistan. People being so what does that mean? I mean, if somebody comes and says that, look, I'm using my right as an Indian from within the framework of the Constitution, I have the right to speak, I have the right to freedom of speech, but then when they do use that right, they are considered traitors to India. Or so what is the reality of this hypocrisy?
See, this is, I just want to backtrack a little bit into history because it helps us understand what's happening today and clearly understand the hypocrisy and the failure of this model. The one thing that happened at the time of independence is the creation of India and Pakistan. And the Muslims who stayed in Pakistan, the justification for them, or the one who were the proponents of India, where Muslims and non-Muslims can live together under a secular framework, was the Congress Party. And within that, if you go back and look at some of those discussions that happened and safeguards that were put into the Constitution for Muslims, was that there would be no interference from the state in terms of their personal law, irrespective of whether we think it's correct or incorrect. But there was a Muslim personal law that was enshrined in the Constitution that has to be protected, and the state cannot interfere within it. There were also protections built in for the rights of minorities, specifically, to voice their opinion, and for no discrimination across, employment or any of the other things that are there within the state. However, when you look at the reality on the ground, how it played out over the last 74 years of India, the post-independence era, is that the Muslims have been constantly marginalized in society, and almost in a systemic way, right? I mean, if you look at, there was a report that came out, which was the Sachar Committee report that was in 2006, that actually talked about how India, the Muslims in India, have been discriminated against in employment, housing. They are discriminated against. They are often the victims of communal riots, police brutality. They are always at the discriminated in education, and they have been moved. Because of the conditions created, they have been moved into ghettos, living in ghettos. They have been systematically, oppressed, economically destroyed, moved into ghettos, lacking most of the facilities that are available, maybe more in other areas, which are not Muslim majority. All of those things, if you look at it, happened under the watch of the Indian National Congress, which ruled for about 54 years of the 74 years. And the same party that actually was inviting Muslims to join it, so that it will protect these rights of the Muslims. And under its watch, this has happened.
So even the issue of the triple talaq issue that happened in the last year or the year before.
So if I can just finish a point on what we see today, right? I mean, the cases that you cited, whether it is about the sister who has been raped, they are refusing to file even an FIR.
Yeah, that's another thing.
It is the case of the arrest of Sharjil Imam and other Muslim activists right? Whether it is you are talking about how the people who were responsible for the demolition of the Babri Masjid have been released without any consequences, right? Or those who, the fact is that the one who was responsible for the 2002 Gujarat riots is now the Prime Minister of India.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very clear that this system
And elected the second
never
time.
worked for the Muslims. It never worked for the Muslims, and actually, it's been something that Muslims. Of course, from a Shari perspective, we can discuss that. Even from a reality perspective, it is very clear that this experiment, this thing that the Muslims were told will protect your rights and allow you to live by Islam, has failed. Today, the Muslims are they can't. If you look at, they cannot even look visibly Muslim in India. It has come to that point, right? Muslims, if they look, they can't even use their Muslim name. They keep names which are Hindu sounding, so that they are not lynched, out of the fear of being lynched. This is exactly first-hand accounts I have been told by people, that they keep Hindu names just so that they can not be afraid of being attacked when they are in Hindu areas. And areas have been made into Hindu areas and Muslim areas just because of this kind of Islamophobia that has been created and generated.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask. This is for both of you. Anybody can jump on this question. It looks as if the India or the Indian government is actually scared of the Muslim population. I mean, would that be a right analysis to say that they are? And if they are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it that they are scared of the Muslim population, or is it that they are worried that within the regional framework where they are? I mean, they are surrounded by Muslims as far as Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kashmir in the north, and having almost 150 million or 200 million population of the Muslims. Is this what the concern in their mind is that they're trying to make it the so-called Hindutva nation so that they have something to stand on? Or what is the concern that India has or the Indian government has?
I mean, you got to again go into the history to understand how we came to where we are at. Again, this goes back to, I'm going back into history because all of these trace back to the British policies that they implemented and the plan that they implemented, right? And one of the things that they did after the famous 1857 revolt is to promote a theory of two nations, where if you look at the 1857 revolt, Muslims and Hindus were united in replacing the British occupation with the Mughal ruler at that time. And the British, this was a very a pivotal moment in the history of colonization, of the British colonization of India. After that, they realized that in order to maintain control, the British Crown needs to take over. And that was actually the beginning of, before that, it was the East India Company that was running the show. After that, it was the British government, the Crown, that took over. And they call it that period as the British Raj. Right? What they did is that they created a two-nation theory. They utilized it to create a mindset amongst the Hindus by supporting Hindutva vote bank, creating a Hindu vote bank and a Muslim vote bank. And they played one against the other. You see, and this was something that the Muslim intellectuals and Muslim scholars actually were completely against it. And they were calling for the bringing back Islam, which guaranteed the rights for both Muslims and non-Muslims. And it was not until the destruction of the Uthmani Khilafah where you see that this the movement, they also established political parties on this basis. So you see RSS was one of the parties that was for the Hindu nation. And then you had the Muslim League, which was for building a nation for Muslims only. right? And this theory is what resulted in what happened, the outcome of the 1947, where you have the creation of Pakistan and India. So what I want us to understand is that there was this Hindutva current that was always on the sidelines. What happened is that,
always there.
yes, so at the time of independence, they made the Indian Congress be the political party that will run the country, and that was the only party that would appease the Muslims as well. And if you look at as I said, 54 years of the 74 years has been under the rule of the Congress party. BJP and RSS, which is its ideological wing, only got traction in the late 90s after the Babri Masjid issue, and also then in the early 2000s. Okay, so this is where you see that this mindset of creating a Hindu Rashtra has taken a currency at the national level. Obviously, at the state level, they were always those parties that were taking over. So yes, today, the mindset, I would say, is that, yes, the state itself systematically did not trust the Muslims from the beginning, day one, from independence. If you look at one of the first, I think he was a defense minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, right? He is well known to have said that the Muslims have to prove their loyalty to the state.
So hold on, brother, on the same event, okay, so look at what, it goes with what Nasruddin, what's his name, Nasiruddin Shah, just the latest, he's an actor, and nowadays we're supposed to look at the actors as examples, but he came out and he said something regarding, when Taliban came in power, he said something like the Muslims should not be looking at, he said, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back, matlab, koi vahshiya centuries ko kya aap jana cha rahe hain? I'm sure you heard the statement. Yes. Is this, what is he trying to say? I mean, he's also saying, oh, okay, we have our own Indian Islam.
Correct. Yeah. So, this is, I will extend the part because like what Abdul Muqeet said, it's connected, right? So, when in the recent phenomena, what happened is, as the Muslim grew in India and became more educated, and they started, youth started going to the major cities for the education from villages, towns, and other parts, they started learning about history. They were now interested in knowing how their predecessors they influenced India, and the major part they had in the political process, like, for example, Maulana Muhammad Ali Jauhar, Maulana Shaukat Ali, and people like that. So once they started connecting to their root, this was not digested by the political parties, by the governments, intelligentsia. So they started targeting specifically the Muslim youth that went for the education. And these are the sons of doctors, engineers, and highly professional people, in larger cities such as Delhi. So basically, they created the atmosphere of terrorism charges and things of that nature, so they can basically shut down any rise of the Muslim youth, the young Muslims that are getting educated and now thinking about their past, how their elders, their forefathers, they rose up against British. What was their role? What they wanted in India? How they wanted to form the harmony? All of this could not be digested by basically those who are governing. Of course, the normal people, the Hindus, they don't even know a lot about their own system. So the Muslims, by systematically, Muslim youth are being targeted and marginalized. Now, going back to what Nasiruddin Shah was saying, because they have a big fear, right? Because Muslims in India are getting momentum, right? They are looking at the larger picture, how the world environment is changing. I mean, the people who they didn't even have sandals in their feet and defeated the superpower of this world. Superpower went there for lies and deceit that we're going to bring democracy. The democracy which we're discussing about, it was full of corruption. It was a filth that they thrown out. Taliban didn't even have to do anything. and get any resistance from public, because public knew what America put there in the name of democracy is nothing but corruption. So Nasiruddin Shah and things of that people, they're looking, right? They're looking at the youth. Where they're going to look at now, right? They're looking. The Muslims defeated the superpower. They defeated the Soviets. They defeated the capitalists and communists both. So they look for the ideology of Islam, which can empower them, right? This presenting the right solution, how we can protect the minority, how we can resolve the economical issues, and so on and so forth. This cannot be digested by the secularist and the right wing both, because I sit with right wing and I have to ask them questions. Tell me, you want to bring Ram Janmabhoomi to basically to the Hindutva? How you can do it? Do you have economic system? Do you have foreign policy? Do you have any laws to govern the society? And they have none. So basically, and
so let me ask you this: the reason why? I mean, look, you brought a lot of there's a lot to unpack in what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot to unpack. Are you saying that, look, failure of America in Central Asia, or specifically in Afghanistan, that is by default failure of the system of democracy, let's say, everywhere in the world, and hence by default also India? Is this so now? But when somebody like Nasiruddin Shah comes up and says, let's not talk about this. We should not be happy with this. You're saying that because the reason they have to bring people like this and talk like this is because they are seeing that their own system is being basically falling in pieces in front of their eyes. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. They recognize that this is a corrupt system which cannot be fixed, which cannot be patched. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a replacement of a system with a superior system, superior lifestyle, where the minorities and everyone is protected. They're safe. When they go out of the home, they do not have to worry about what kind of meat they have in their car, and they will be just killed without having the meat in their car. So they see all of this happening in front of their eyes. So they look outside. So this, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take a few minutes explaining this, because this is a very, very important topic. And what happened is, before Nasiruddin Shah, they have utilized Salman Khan, they utilized Shah Rukh Khan, saying that Islam is about peace, Islam is about love, Islam is about, those who are in the cave, we should hunt them down, things of that nature. Now, why the India bringing? Because see, you have to understand the whole worldwide change that is happening. Narendra Modi.
By the way, Salman Khan seems to be in Turkey nowadays. Go on.
MashaAllah, he's getting closer, huh?
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So they bring this type of celebrity just to prove that there is a problem in Islam. We know, we Muslims understand that we cannot take life of any innocent people. This is against the laws of Islam. Once we enter into the battlefield, we're facing the enemy. Now, killing the enemy in the battlefield is rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And American soldiers, they didn't go with the flowers, in their hand. They didn't have bouquet in their hand. They were killing, peeing on the people. These are the most civilized people on the face of the earth. They went on higher education.
On the dead bodies of the Afghans they killed, yes.
Yep.
So you see the psyche. So Muslims, youth, he reads. He understands what's going on. So Nasiruddin Shah have to come, and he would have to say, look, you are Indian Muslim. You have to be, just live in a box of Indian Islam. Don't look anywhere outside. And he quoted that, how Islam is barbarianism. He's not talking about the barbarianism of basically
lynching is not barbarism.
Yeah, lynching is not barbarianism. He's talking about he's not even talking about the Taliban. He's actually talking about the Islamic laws that punishes.
And he says centuries old. Means he goes all the way back to.
Exactly. So what he is trying to say is, cut off your connection with actual Islam. Follow the new brand of Islam: American Islam, Indian Islam, Chinese Islam, Xinjiang Islam. So these are the things that are said to the Muslim youth to basically put them in the box of nation state type of Islam. We know Islam is revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is unchangeable. It's not going to change no matter how much technology we bring in, no much how advanced we become, because this is the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not man-made that they can change whenever they please, whenever they want. They can privatize industries, exploit the farmers. I mean, this is chaotic, right? And I was just reading today that a underage daughter, she was raped in India, and she went to check up in the hospital, and she went to the bathroom to actually take out the fetus and flush it out. So they don't find. This is the type of society we are living in right now at this moment. The same democracy that talks about people having rights.
Brother Abdul Muqeet, just on why is it that again, anyone can answer this, but why is it that, I mean, does Bollywood, does it really play such a role in making public opinion that they feel, I mean, they feel the need to bring somebody like Nasiruddin Shah and present him to the Muslims as an example? I mean, how big of a role does Bollywood really play within the Muslim framework in India?
Oh, absolutely. I think, they have created this, and that's the reason why, you see these actors coming out and making those public statements, is because they
make more statements than the ulama make.
Yes, that's subhanallah. That's a very good observation right there. Right. I mean, so they do try to promote them as the ones that the Muslim youth need to be looking up to. And, Bollywood is influential in general. If you talk to the youth, that's what they watch, right? I mean, if you look at Bollywood, it has played that role along. I mean, by the way, it is Bollywood is used to shape the opinion of across the society. If you look at some of the recent movies that have been made, right? I mean, you would see movies made about how
Ahmad Shah Abdali and
this is right now you are seeing this new trend, right, where they made a movie of Ahmad Shah Abdali, who was one of the rulers of Afghanistan, who was invited by Shah Waliullah Dehlavi to come and take over or to take care of the Maratha threat that the the Muslim rule was facing. Yeah, but they present it in a way that promotes the Hindutva narrative, which is that Islam is outsiders. Islam came to invade your lands and to dominate you, right? And also, you see, by the way, if you look at some of the other movies that are out there, they are always talking about how Islam is associated with terrorism and all those, which was the entire last 20 years of war on terror. What has been going on, you would see that Bollywood played a very important role in shaping public opinion, even amongst the Muslim youth. What kind of a model Muslim, what makes you a good Muslim, is also being defined by Bollywood through these actors in how they act on screen and also in life.
So okay, that's very interesting that you say that. So I guess they, they're using, obviously this is trying to make public opinion here. But brother Abu Atta, I remember having a conversation with you. You were saying that they are working so hard to create a public opinion because they are the system that the Muslims are living in, it's failing them. So can you expound on that a little bit more? Failing them in the sense that, what is, I mean, they cannot get a serious education. They cannot, like you guys were saying, you can't really, jobs are hard to get, education is hard to get, getting into politics and being a serious role is hard to get. So is this, how does this work? I guess that's what I'm asking.
So I mean, in recent years, from what I have seen, the young kids that were going out to study in larger cities and get graduated, those who were able to, they graduated. But a lot of parents, after these raids and putting people in behind the bar, parents are very afraid and scared of sending their children anywhere in the larger city for the schooling. So what this does is this basically puts us on back foot. We're not getting the right types of education that we need to, because there is a threat that if my kids is going to go and study abroad, then they will face these type of things. And the intelligentsia is working so hard to infiltrate in any of the university, right? So if you talk about University of Delhi or
Jamia Millia,
they have their eye on these things, and they do not allow anything to happen there. And if you become active, like of Imam
Sharjil,
Imam Sharjil, you are deemed as terrorist. Just by speaking. I thought the democracy had freedom of speech. You can speak, you can express yourself.
Remember, it's democracy.
Oh, sorry, democracy.
Yes.
So absolutely, yeah.
We got. Then things make sense, is what I'm trying.
Yes. So this is the atmosphere. They have created anti-education atmosphere for the Muslim students. They're targeting madrasa. If there is Islamic school and education, I mean, literally, they had to fly Indian flag in front of their mother in their madrasa and take a snapshot and send it to the Indian Hindus to prove their nationality. This is the type of atmosphere we're dealing. If they don't do that, they're deemed as anti-national or Pakistani. So there is no protection at all of the minorities within the democratic system.
I mean, is it? Let me ask you this, Brother Abdul Muqeet, is it even possible to have rights as minority in a democracy, or is this just a facade? I mean,
that's exactly true. It's not just minorities. No one has, rights. I mean, if you look at India, it's not just Muslims who are. Yes, Muslims are being scapegoated. It's a distraction, but the system is failing for everyone, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. If you look at the recent protests that have been happening, they were the farmer protests that happened in the
with the Punjab issue.
Right. Punjab. I mean, it is. If you look at it, this is not the only thing happening. There are so many farmers who have committed suicide over decades.
Yeah, right? I wanted to get there. I really wanted to get
the point is that the system is failing for both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. What they have done is that if you look at even how they handled the recent COVID crisis, right, it was a failure of the government to take care of this crisis and resolve it. But they immediately scapegoated the Muslims as being the ones who were spreading the COVID, right?
They used the correct word.
Right? I'm talking about the first wave. That's what they did. Even though the biggest crisis at that time was the amount of migrant population that had to, when the lockdown happened, they were not given even enough notice so that they can return back to their villages from where they come and stay in the city to work. And they actually had to walk several hundred kilometers with their families. Several died, right? I mean, and also there were pictures of women dead on the railway platforms with their young babies sitting next to them. This is the reality of the country, and I'm not talking about Muslims. Yeah,
that's true. That's a very interesting point that you bring. I mean, what is the reality of so you're talking now that so we're not even just talking about the political system failing, but the economic system is also failing. So who succeeds in India? Who is actually that you can say that, you have farmers who are failing, committing suicide daily. They can't get their rights. And even I think the reason for the farmers doing the protest was also, it seems like their lands were being taken and given to corporations.
See, a lot of the things, if I look back a lot of the policies, and this is what democracy is. It's a system made for the elites, right? And they create this notion of majority and minority to control people and to, shape public opinion. This is the reality of things. But at the end of the day, the system exists to benefit a few. And this is the case of India, right? I mean,
who are the few in
right.
India?
I mean,
the Ambanis, is that who are
yes,
the people?
I mean, it's very well known that Modi came with certain industrial families, whether it was Gujarat and whether it was when he came to the national stage. So
go ahead, Brother Abu Atta, what you were saying?
No, actually, I will be correcting Muqeet. Modi is a slave of Mukesh Ambani and people of those. Literally, they are like, when they walk in front of them, as if they are the slave of these people. And that is the reality. It's not only in India. The farmers in America is doing suicide. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, whole world is trying to come to America, and in America, farmers are doing suicide. You are the best capitalist nation, right? So your farmers
the only
should not be
difference is
doing
here they can keep printing money at will. India,
Yes.
if it goes, I don't think India will survive if it keeps printing at will. So
actually,
that's the only technique they have. I mean, but continue on the issue of the failure of the system constantly. Now COVID has failed. The response on COVID has failed. The response with the farmers have failed. The response on the education of power, of the poor have failed. Even those who elected or selected Modi are questioning what did he actually do to the country.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And that's what they do, right? Every election. That's why it's very well known. If you talk to any from India, they would say to you that, right before an election, you would see anti-Hindu Muslim riots happening, some statements being made, and these kind of incidents happening where, a masjid is attacked or, mob lynchings become common. Because they shape the conversation, the electoral I mean, this is what they play, the vote bank politics, they call it even. There is a term for that, right? I mean, they try to protect the vote bank by saying that, okay, we are protecting you against the other, right? And this is the typical game plan every political party has. And this, and unfortunately, the people problem are only getting worse and worse. By the way, if you... I was just talking about. When I was last on one of my visits, my father was pointing out to the lot of the lands around Hyderabad. These were all land owned by where the public property lands, where these were the grazing lands. These were the lands where you had state-owned farms that were managing this property. All these lands were converted into private property by the politicians and given out and sold out, right? So there's so much of land grabbing that happens. I'm just bringing you one example how the law which was defining the land as a public land or waqf land is an Islamic rule. Okay? But now those rules which were protection, right? They were protection for the people because it was a public good that was for public usage. Now they are rolling back those laws under this system of so-called democracy. The protections that's what I'm trying to point out to you, that the Islamic rule that they keep pointing out as a problem was actually what gave the prosperity, like Brother Abu Atta was pointing out, is the prosperity to the Indian subcontinent. In fact, at the time of the Mughals, at the time of Aurangzeb, may Allah have mercy on him, the economy of India was 25%, almost 25% of the world GDP. Imagine that, 25% of the world GDP. And today, it's not even 4% of the world GDP.
I mean, it's interesting. Look, let me, from that point, I'm going to take it to a different point here on the issue of let's say to the international politics other than India itself. I mean, India, you have India there, you have China, you have Pakistan, you have Bangladesh, you have Afghanistan, you have, it seems like almost 60% of the world's population is in this area. The recent developments, I mean, what are your observations, Brother Abu Atta, you or Abdul Muqeet, whoever wants to, but I want to hear from both of you guys. What are your observations on what India would have to do, or what do you think they will do? I mean, regarding keeping in mind you have BJP in power, and now you have Taliban on the other side in power. Will the Indian government accept Taliban because China is on the other side playing power politics? So they would have to accept Taliban as a power and deal with them, or they're being forced to deal with them. What's the deal with this region now? Anyone, please.
Yeah, I can go actually. Yeah, so as far as the Indian are concerned, a lot of intellectuals that were talking about this, it's not going to fall. The Taliban is not going to take over the country because we have 300,000 strong standing and defending the Afghanistan, right? So their thoughts was they were looking that there will be a fierce resistance by the army. But that did not happen, and that didn't happen simply because of the corruption. They even army knew that we are protecting a corrupt system, so they just fled. They said, "Okay, we're not going to fight." So now, looking at the larger picture, when China comes into because India tried to shake hands with China before, presenting that we have a relationship with China and Russia and Pakistan doesn't have, so we are on the world stage. But when this happened, they really feel that they've been backstabbed by China.
Well, so in this case, they were backstabbed by America, it seems.
Oh yeah. I mean, they feel that they're talking on their news channel day and night about how they were, because America made them spend so much money.
$5 billion, something like this. 5 trillion, 5 billion. What did they lose? I mean, they had to close five embassy offices. I heard even more. Kandahar was closed. Mazar-e-Sharif was closed. Kabul was closed. I mean, everything is closed.
Yeah, so America has only about 4 consulates, and America is huge. But Afghanistan had 57 consulates, Indian consulates.
India had 57 consulates.
Right, so you could imagine what they were doing there and how
57 consulates in Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan, yes.
Yes, Allah. Okay.
And so you could imagine the type of network they had, and they had to get out from there, when this happened. So now they will have to rethink and re-strategize their thinking. Of course, one thing they want to do is they will try to take up the issue of the Kashmir. They will say these people are going to take over the Kashmir and do blah, 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 which China is already doing, So they don't stand against the powerful enemy. They target Muslims because they're weak, they're divided, so they target them. But they cannot bark against China because they know China will teach them lessons. And I'm talking about the politician. Because the common man on the ground in India doesn't know about the world politics. He knows about flying the tricolor flag on 15th of August, and that's it. He doesn't understand that they are being played, just like people in America. They don't understand that they're being played for the war of terror they had started, fake, like WMD they had in Iraq. So these are the bigger picture. So India will try to create some environment such that they can at least target Kashmir and Muslims within India. I don't think they have at this point ability to take on China because they were not before when they were in better shape in Afghanistan and other places. So America really left them. And this is the quality of America. When people stood up against the people in Egypt, America fled from there, right? So it became on the side of the people right away. So America swiftly changes its position and leave you alone. So they are at their own mercy. America is gone from there.
So now, what is the public opinion within India about the U.S. now? U.S. As far as U.S. being a so-called natural ally, and that U.S. will protect Indian interests. What is Taliban has declared basically the closest ally to be China. I think yesterday that's what they have came out and said. And so what happens now? I mean, India becomes isolated, or is it? How does this play out? I mean, Brother Muqeet, what do you think about this? What is the?
I mean, I think India is when they said America called it a natural ally. It was for very good reasons. In that region, even though America has a much more closer relationship with Pakistan, but it called India a natural ally And it's because the nature of that region. It knows how volatile that region is, the history of that region, where Islam ruled for so many centuries, and the people still want Islam, and they have been kind of, you know, divided around, you know, nationalism and the other problems and crises that they have been put into. But you know, if you look at, and that's primarily the reason why in Afghanistan, America utilized India to build a network, and so that there will be a more closer connection between Afghanistan with India than with Pakistan. So a lot of the funds, development funds, were channeled through India and through Indian, so businesses and all those other things that they did. And so, yeah, it was at the end. If you look at what happened with this Taliban takeover, is that India has been one of the biggest losers. And now, what is the outcome? You know, it really depends on you know, what kind of developments happen in that region. Where Taliban goes, we don't know yet what they have agreed to and how they what the plan is for Taliban, and how independent they can become and stand on the surface.
But what happens here now? I mean, anybody can take what happens now.
So the thing is, you know, look at before. I would just say, you know, look at what happened in the last 20 years of the war on terror. Right, war on terror was the basis on which, you know, America brought the public opinion behind its two wars. In fact, it went after a war in Iraq, which was completely based on lies, but no one challenged it, right? And what it also did is it allowed these countries like India and China to clamp down on the Muslims in Kashmir and Xinjiang with the Uyghur Muslim and all those things that they did, using the same war on terror narrative. I mean, we also know how the Muslim rulers did with their populations. That's another story. But this is what they did. In Kashmir, India increased its oppression of the Muslims over there. And it actually forced Pakistan to prevent support of any of the groups that are fighting India over the last 20 years. And if you look at what happened before COVID, right? I mean, if you look at August 2019, when the Article 370 was repealed, was the final, what you can say, ripping off the Band-Aid, right? To make the control of India more stronger and legitimate. Okay, so this is all they try to do under the banner of war on terror and the kind of, you know, control it allowed them in that region. All of those things now are up with a question mark. Okay. Now,
everything is, that's the interesting thing. Everything is up in the air. I mean,
yes.
So let me ask one more thing, Brother Abu Atha, on this same, let's say, because of the Kashmir issue, but also all these bills that were signed as far as the CAA, CAB, all of these, you know, I mean, is it with the developments in the region, is it possible to, or it's no longer possible to see? I mean, if you look at what happened to Rohingya by the Burmese regime, what they did to Rohingya, many people were thinking that might be the case with the Muslims in India. There were already certain places, camps being built to move Muslims to these camps and things like that. Is this all on hold now, or is this will this thing accelerate? I mean, I guess the Muslim scene in India, because of the developments in Afghanistan, do you think Islamophobia and everything do you guys think that it will accelerate, or will they try to now create some type of bonds because they fear what might be happening in the other side?
Right. So the situation is very critical at this point. How India was thinking, and the Indian government was taking this initiative before, was a little bit different. You know, they were trying to clamp down on Muslims, to change these laws. And what is the reason why they would change these laws? They can well control these Muslims that are, you know, 13, 14, 15%, a minority. But reason why these democratic parties they do these type of things because they don't have something to present to the public. They come with the promises that
So lack of solutions.
Yes. So they come into the power promising you're gonna have 2 lakhs in your bank, 5 lakhs in your bank account, and you're gonna have this and you're gonna have that. There will be prosperity, there will be jobs, there will be
Everybody will have an actual toilet in their home.
Yeah, and they will after the election, after they come into power, then they say, look, I can pakoda, right? Pakoda is one of my African American friends says is Indian French fries.
Yes.
So now the prime minister says go and
I still stick with biryani though. Okay, go ahead. I'm from Hyderabad, man. Biryani is the best example you can give.
Okay, or go cook biryani, So this is the type of answers the engineers are getting. Man, these are educated people on the street. They want job, they want to go to the office, they want to support their family. But Indian government, nothing has to present. Now they have to cover with something. So now you find the Muslims. What is the issue? Triple talaq, issue of the rights of the women, as if they have the best. 1 in 3 women in abuse in India, the largest democracy on the face of the earth. Go and take
it's known as the rape capital in the world. So I don't know how they live with that title.
It's called Rapistan. Like how we have Pakistan, Afghanistan. So they term, and these terms are not made by Muslims. They're made by non-Muslims. Rapistan, Lynchistan. So you see, they have to cover up with something. So they come up with CAA, NRC. So you put the masses back into these type of issues rather than what is going on with the economy, who is getting all the private sectors. The gas prices are going high inflation. So you don't engage the population into these matters. Now you have prepared the enemy and you're going after them. So it is only for the distraction. Now, can they do more with the Muslims in India? They are very careful about this. They understand that
now, or since the political scene has changed, is that why?
Yeah, so now they will change their strategy. Yes, they were basically trying to do what exactly Muslims are going through in Burma, But again, in the Burma, the situation is a little bit different than how the Muslims are in India. Muslim in India, they played a large role on the world politics. Okay, now they're preparing the largest movement in 1920s, right? Khilafat movement. Coming from India, millions of people rallying behind them, Hindus rallying behind them together. So the ingredient that Muslims of India are a little bit different than what you find of Muslims in So for example, Yogi, one of the BJP leader, when he was passing by the city, like one of the city, from the Muslim, I was there actually, and they were highly secure, because they were afraid of the Muslims. So Muslims of India, they have been cornered, but it would not take them a moment to rise up. There will be time they will say, "Finish, enough is enough. Yep. Now we're gonna rise up and take our rights. If you're gonna oppress us, you're gonna see it." So they are a little bit afraid. Again, I mean, you're talking about a state, right? So they have all the weaponry, all the police, all the army. So it's not easy for people to rise, but there is a point that people are gonna get tired of. And the youth, this is what happened to the Kashmir. Right. They tried to throw like democracy in the mouth of the Muslims, saying that if democracy is so good, they will embrace it. They will join you, but they didn't. Now you're in.
You can see, I guess, with the recent death of Jilani, Sheikh Jilani, it seems like for the last few days there has been completely just police and soldiers on the ground, even to the point, even his body, Abdul Jilani, even his body was not given to the family. It seems like finally the family found out where the burial actually happened, but the family themselves were not allowed to even give him the proper Islamic burial. And this is democracy.
This is democracy. Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I will bring it to your attention, one slogan that became popular in the entire Muslim world, "Tera mera rishta kya? La ilaha illallah." What is the relationship between you and me? It's La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Despite the fact that we know that our rulers are traitor, Muslims are connecting their trace back to the Muslims outside India. So they're not looking no longer, because see, when they had the non-Muslim Congress party, they felt the need of making the Muslim party. That's how they come up with they brought the what do you call the one of the barrister in India that was graduated from UK to form a party and run the election. Now Muslims see again there is a failure. They don't see any improvement in their how they're being treated in India. So they're gonna always question this. And at a certain point, they reach to the level that we need to connect ourselves to the wider society, wider world. You know, like you see the behind the map, that there is no border Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. It's a man-made thing.
Let me just inshallah, we because of the time we have been reaching Maghrib here also, but just on the issue of the ulama, you know, we've been discussing a lot for the last few days. We've been discussing with a lot of the ulama. Last Jummah, we had Mufti Nadeem on, and then before that we had Umar Baloch, Sheikh Umar Baloch, and then Dr. Malkavi, and all of them. You know, I would like to ask the same questions to you guys, because at the end of the day, the Muslims look up to the ulama. The ulama do play a huge role within their lives, and their opinions matter, what they say matter. But unfortunately, in India, we see the ulama are the last ones to speak. And if they do speak, it's always very passive and really very, unless they're one or two maybe, but majority of them seem to be, you know, they come from a very weak perspective and things like this. But you know, both of you are da'is, both here, and you know, you're constantly speaking on these matters and coming many times from Islamic perspective. What advice do you give to the youth, both here in India and also to the ulama, that, you know, what role do you think they should be playing, and why do you think, two questions, and why do you think that the ulama are so passive? Is it because they are not able to connect their Islam to the reality, or is it they are still living 100 years, behind? Go ahead.
So yeah, definitely. Ulama played a huge role in the past to bring up the next generation who can be leaders, right? Ulama are basically our backbone, and they need to take up their role. Unfortunately, and I was talking to one of the alim in India, that why don't you bring up this stuff? Why don't you talk to the youth about, what Islam brings to the table, basically, for the both Muslims and non-Muslims. We have something that they're crying for. Why don't we present to the table? They said, brother, if we speak something, next thing is we're going to be behind the bar.
Democracy.
Democracy. This is the freedom of speech, freedom of expression you're talking about. So with this fear, with this environment, they're not going to speak. These are the ulama that are honest, right? They have some concern in the heart. Now there are those who grew up in the framework of democracy, who went to the regular madrasa that limits the education to tahara. And so they don't look at the larger picture. How the ulama in the past, they used to look at the larger picture. They look up to Turkey as their own Khalifa. And today, if you talk to alim, what is Khalifa? He's like, what are you talking about? So this perspective has changed within the ulama and the way they were brought up in the education system. So they're limited in what they're doing. And those who are honest and concerned and sincere, they cannot speak. For example, one of the alim in India, after basically he congratulated Taliban, not because they're terrorists. He said, look, you guys seems to be good guys because people not resisted you, and you have come up with in the power. Now rule with justice. What is wrong saying that? Rule with justice.
Right.
What is wrong saying that? But there were FIR filed against him.
Yeah. It happened right away, almost the same day.
So what democracy are we talking about? What freedom of speech are we talking about? People cannot even express a single word. People are concerned even us talking on this camera. They will say, brother, why are you putting yourself on the front line? But who will speak if we all shut down? Who will speak?
No, no,
And see, this is the thing. And due to the time limitation, I would quickly bring up, and people look at India, it's a third world country, it's a democracy. They don't have real democracy. We have in the West real democracy. People don't forget very fast. Their hafiza is very weak. In 1920, America was known as Lynchistan. And majority of the youth grew up in America doesn't know about it. And he's born here. Doesn't know that America was one of the Lynchistan that India is going right now. So wasn't the fourth freedom enshrined in the Constitution? It was. The black man, the African man, was exploited. They were telling, he was doing sexual harassment to white women. 4 people got together and killed him. This was America after all the fancy constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, all of this. So it's a system problem. It's not a regional issue. It's not India. It's not America. It's a system that exploits the people. And people.
Brother Abdul Muqeet, on this, a few words, if you can. Because on the issue of the ulama again, what are your observations as far as what should be done? What should be the role of the ulama, and especially their engagement with the Muslim youth?
This goes back again to the historical role that the ulama have played, right? Anywhere, if you look in the history of the Muslims, they were pivotal in bringing about change. And they were the ones who, were the first ones to call out for the haqq. This is the history of the ulama in the Indian subcontinent. Today, we talk about with so much respect the name of Shah Waliullah Dahlavi, Sayyid Ahmad Barelvi, Shah Abdul Aziz, Muhammad Ubaidullah Sindhi, Mahmud Hassan. All these scholars, remember, they did not talk.
40,000 ulama killed, 40,000 hanged by the British.
SubhanAllah, all these ulama, they did not call for Islam when they were allowed to call for it. In fact, at the time of the British, they were sedition. The charges filed against them, just like today. Nothing has changed, right? They were sent, like Mahmud Hassan Nadwi, may Allah have mercy on him. He was sent to Malta when he was caught in the conspiracy.
Malta being one of the roughest jails in the subcontinent. Yeah,
absolutely.
Guantanamo of yesterday.
Yes, there you go. Yep. And this is what gave us the honor, the respect, and the legacy, the example that we have. And Allah Subhanahu wa Taala gives change to those who work for the change, right? And this is the message for ulama. Because of their knowledge, they have a greater responsibility in front of Allah, that they have to become the callers of haqq. And believe me, like all the things that Brother Abu Atta mentioned are very true. There is a lack of understanding, lack of awareness, lack of by design, where there's a lack of awareness, and the price that you have to pay is huge in some cases, right? But this is where we have to understand that the current status quo is not working for the Muslims, not just for the Muslims, but for the world alike, right? And this is the result. This is what has caused our humiliation and the kind of lack of peace and security that we are living under. So either ways, we are suffering, right? What if you are doing it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling for what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not be afraid of what this system is trying to tell you, what you can call for and what you cannot call for. Because this system, and I was reading a scholar, and I want to use I don't want to use the name of the scholar, but he was trying to, he used the idea about the Qawmiyat, or the nationalism, in order to justify the participation of the Muslims or legitimize becoming part of the Indian Congress.
No, who is that? No, you can mention the name. What's the name?
The point is, that will start a whole discussion, and it will require clarification. So I don't want to go there. But he mentioned in his kitab, "Fatabiru ya ulil albab." Trying to justify. But I'm telling you today, Fatabiru ya ulil albab is for us today. Look at what's happening today around us. Look at what's happening around us. Living in 74 years of this un-Islamic system has failed the Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And we were the ones who were supposed to bring change to the world. Today, we are not even, don't feel safe and protected ourselves. And we cannot even live according to Islam in our personal affairs. Whatever they have said, you can do, right? I mean, ibadah and fasting. That's also not allowed today. Look at what's happening with
we cannot even eat what we want.
Exactly. Right. So
I think now the cow is going to become the national animal of something like this, right? That's what they're saying.
Yes,
it will be declared national
animal. And
Even
subhanAllah, if you look at it, the entire world is looking for change. Right? And the Muslims are the ones who have the ability to have the only thing that will bring about that change. Because everyone knows the order has to change, but no one has the ability to come forward with a solution. Only Muslims have that solution.
And that's the role on that point, inshallah. We'll end it on that point because of the Maghrib is coming in less than 2 minutes actually. So again, brothers and sisters, I know there were some questions. I tried to ask as many as possible. Many of them were asked. Yeah, but I can. How much time do we have for Maghrib? Okay, let's. I did ask most of the questions that were here, except just one. It says, there's a narrative that American media, there's a narrative in American media that India and China allow people to reach prosperity. But how true is this in reality? Who are those people the press are talking about? I don't know what the question really means. American media, the India and China allow people to reach prosperity. But how true is that in reality? Do you want to address this, or I think we've already addressed this. We talked about, many issues, including economics. But if somebody wants to take it, go ahead.
I will talk about it. China might be a different story, but India, it works for the elites, but I don't think it works for the common people.
Now again, here's the thing. Now the schools are closed again for a whole year, it seems, because of Delta. And, it's funny that, in the U.S., we found out that there are areas in the U.S. that people did not have internet, and hence their kids could not go to school, or they were not able to connect, But if that's the case in the U.S., what would be the case with a country like India, where majority of the population lives in poverty?
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the education is concerned, and as far as access to education is concerned, or resources is concerned.
As I said, the crisis was there before COVID. COVID just made it even more, exposed it even further, the crisis that was there. The failure of the system. And as you rightly pointed out, the failures are even here in the United States. If you want to call it the top of the pyramid, it's still there. The same problems. Lack of infrastructure, lack of basic necessities for people, right? These are lack of hospitals and all those things that were so very clearly exposed in the handling of the COVID crisis. Simple thing as oxygen is what people died for.
Yeah, simple. Yeah, people did not
and
have.
Even after knowing for a year what was needed to take care of this crisis.
Even that became a voting issue. People were using life and death of their own populations as how to gain votes rather than save lives.
Yep.
Again, the whole election campaign was going on in there.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, the whole election campaign, and the prime minister was roaming on the street. The Corona jihad at that time was finished. One of the things that I wanted to give quickly answer of the question. I think the brother, I know where he's coming from. One of the things we need to understand that the media in America is not free. It's well controlled by the capitalists. I will give you an example. Yesterday, I was reading a report in which the corporation were trying to influence the abortion law.
Yeah, Texas is all. Yeah.
Now you tell me why corporation has to come into the middle of the abortion? Why they have to come into the middle of LGBT? Because they are the one who controls the media, who runs the show. So it's not the common man. They are deceived to believe that the ballot box because their nature, their what do you call, instinct, they get fulfilled. Like they have a desire of being in power, so it gets fulfilled by putting something in a ballot box. So the media is well controlled in the West. That tells what's going on in the East, right? So India as a partner, so they have to show it up. Oh yeah, India has a rise in economy and this and that, so they can build up the image of India. At the same time, they can say, look, China is becoming prosper because they want to attack China.
Yeah.
So this is not because they're concerned about
even though it seems per capita, in China it's 64th in the world index. As far as the world index is concerned, China is the 64th country as far as per capita income. And that's an interesting thing. We can one day actually talk about China itself, inshallah. But on that, we're going to end the program here, brothers, inshallah. And again, I would like to thank Brother Abdul Muqeet and Brother Abu Aqa on coming on the show, being guests on the show. And I believe me, this will not be the last time, inshallah. We will have to continue this conversation depending on the developments in the region, especially in India and the rest of the region. Bi'iznillahi ta'ala. And for the rest of the brothers and sisters who are watching, Jazakumullahu khairan for your time. Please, I've been reminded to ask you to follow us on YouTube and also Facebook. Subscribe to us, please. These conversations that we are having with the type of intellectuals that we're bringing on, the type of activists and people who are many times on the ground, in and out of different areas, da'is, thinkers, you're not going to find anywhere else. And we need to support programs such as this, brothers and sisters. The reason why is because we try our best to bring and show the value of Islam and the role of Islam that as Muslims that we can play, as the role of Muslims and Islam in today's world. And actually, to tell you the truth, as we go forward, it seems every region of the world is concentrated on what the Muslims have to say, whether they like it or not. So you can see the importance of Islam and the importance of the Muslims and importance of the public opinion in the Muslim lands regarding any issue that's happening in the world. So these are conversations we must have, hard conversations, tough conversations, asking tough questions. So inshallah, continue to follow us and continue to look for the next programs that are coming up. Again, jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود، أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود. إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد، فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد. أخي ستبيد جيوش الظلام ويشرق في الكون فجر جديد، فأطلق لروحك إشراقها. ترى الفجر يرمقنا من بعيد، ترى الفجر يرمقنا من بعيد.